Okay, recently, Tyrese Gibson, he was ordered to pay child support. But what happens when it flips on its head and now it is the woman that has to pay alimony? Okay, so I don't know if this was in the news long enough or they tried to keep it out of the news, but how I was turned into looking into this was by a comedian that had mentioned this, and she said she was just thought this was unfair. And this is one of the artists that I really like listening to. This is just one artist that I really enjoy listening to her music, Mary J. Blige. So alimony is tough on women. Just ask Mary J. Blige. This is by Emily Russell. This was put out this year in April on the 18th. So it's fun to daydream about being a star, the lights, the glamour, and adoring fans. And sometimes we admit it is fun to think about the money as well too. But houses around the world, parties with A-listers, the latest designer shoes and accessories, everything about celebrity lifestyle can seem so different than the lives so many of us lead. But we've learned anything, it's that money and fame. If we learn anything, it's that money and fame don't make everyday troubles go away. Isn't that the truth? And so recently, what we've been hearing is definitely being famous is not going to make your troubles disappear. It actually kind of adds to it from what I've been seeing. So they just make them more public. Yep, and usually more expensive. So, in a recent interview with iHeartRadio, Mary J. Blige revealed that she herself talked about her divorce that she had. And so, this was from her former partner, Martin Kendu Isaacs. So, in an interview, Blige, she spoke about not having enough money to pay her rent. So she was talking about her own lifestyle and how it was hurting her when she had to pay alimony after her first divorce. According to her, Isaacs had spent most of her money, and when the divorce happened, she had no more money to give, forcing her to go on tour to fulfill her support obligations. So this is per Yahoo News. So in 2017, Blige was ordered to pay, get this y'all, $30,000 a month. That's a lot more than $10,000 a month what Tyrese has to pay for child support. So look at that. So in alimony to her ex-husband, he's not a baby. So originally his lawyers requested quadruple that amount to help him in his situation in his lifestyle. So he was living a particular way, so he needed more than just 30,000. He wanted quadruple that amount. And so Isaacs claimed that he had experienced physical manifestations of stress and emotional distress from this matter, which has caused him to become hospitalized. So the singer's former manager further claimed that he had to become unemployable, and without her financial support, he would be destitute, and paying rent has become impossible for him. Okay, so that was the reason why he was asking for alimony payments. So Blige is hardly alone in this. A significant number of A-list people, famous people, female celebrities have been ordered to pay alimony over the years. Jennifer Lopez had to pay Chris Judd about $14 million. Anna Faris paid close to $1 million to her first husband, Ben Indra. Former Spice Girl Mel B had to, for her ex-husband legal fees, she had to pay that in addition to $40,000 in temporary alimony. A heartbreaking scenario given the allegations that she was a victim of domestic violence, but she ended up having to pay. So think about what women go through. Seems crazy, doesn't it? So nor is it just the A-listers who pay. In general, a number of women ordered to pay alimony has increased in the recent years. So beware of the relationships you get into. Beware. Market Watch reports that a 2018 survey conducted by the American Academy of Matrimonial Lawyers, some 54% of the attorneys surveyed have seen an increase in mothers paying child support. So women pay child support too. It ain't just the men doing it. So anybody getting them videos together talking about, oh, poor Tyrese, look at what the females go through, and sometimes it is not. It's a lot more than $10,000. I can tell you that much. This number correlates directly to the number of women who are now the breadwinners. That's the reason why in their households. And so once you become the person who makes the most money, this is how it goes. You become the spouse most likely to order to pay alimony. So think about that when you get in your relationships. You make the most money, then you gonna pay the most. And that's the way it goes. Unfortunately, in some situations, even if you're the one that was abused. So alimony sometimes, which is called spousal support, can be a complicated topic and oftentimes is misunderstood. So by definition, alimony payments are court-ordered payments awarded to the spouse of a former spouse within a separation and divorce agreement. So the reason for the alimony is to provide financial support to the spouse who makes a lower income, or in some cases no income at all. So you might want to think about your relationship ventures when you think about how money is involved, because you can separate from a lot of other things other than just cheating. So just FYI. So Maryland recognizes 3 types of alimony: temporary, indefinite, and rehabilitative temporary alimony, pendente, light, short-term payment period, lasting as long as the divorce process takes to ensue. Both sides can negotiate fairly. So indefinite alimony is meant to support the former partner the rest of their life. Okay, so you might be paying for that partner even if you're not with them no more for the rest of their life or until they get married again. If so, designated so that they can retain the lifestyle that they become accustomed to. You want me to read that again? So they can retain that lifestyle they've been accustomed to. Rehabilitative alimony lasts until such a time that former spouse can re-enter the workforce and that can sustain themselves and their lifestyle. So yes, it can happen. So how does a judge decide who pays the alimony? There's several factors that the judge or the mediator to look at when assessing the alimony payments, including: does your spouse have the ability to support themselves financially? How much time is needed for your alimony seeking spouse to obtain sufficient training and education in order to become self-sufficient and employed? What was the standard of living during your marriage? How long were you and your spouse married? How do you and your spouse contribute to the family, both financially and to overall well-being to the household? What were the circumstances that led to the divorce? How old is each party? And how is the physical and mental well-being of each party? And can the party who is paying the alimony support themselves while paying it? And was there any sort of pre- or post-nuptial agreement made between the parties? They're looking at that. And so what are the financial needs and resources of both parties? And so all of these are the questions that the judge may consider when deciding on how much you should pay for the alimony. And these are also questions that you should know and answer to, so you can avoid the sticker shock of support payments. So we see some high profile divorces take place. The Johnny Depp case and some of the other stuff go down recently, and then some of the stuff that isn't as highly publicized, but it's just as bad. But it is also a good reason to work with a Fulton divorce attorney. They can help you throughout the process and make the complicated legal work simple. Okay, so what do I do if I do not have enough money to pay alimony? So that's another question. So what can you do if you are in Blige's position, what are have been ordered to pay more than you can reasonably afford because of a loss of a job or another life event? So in some cases, you may be able to modify the alimony. So they won't take it away, they just modify it. And so if the alimony is modifiable, you will need to prove that you are unable to afford the current alimony payment by showing evidence of a change in your circumstance, such as a termination letter, pay stubs, bank account records. Sounds like a hassle to me, I'm just saying. However, if you do not file that alimony modification, there are consequences if you simply stop paying. So you can face criminal charges for contempt of court, and your wages can be garnished. Your tax refunds can be seized. In some cases, you could be reported to credit bureaus or professional licensing agencies, which can cost you your job. And so the reason, because alimony is a court-ordered situation, and if you fail to follow the court order, there will be consequences on top of that. So if you are getting a divorce, believe you me, you will have to pay the alimony. McKay Russell, PA, can help. And so Fulton alimony attorneys can help. And I guess this is how they're trying to extend their way of helping. There's other attorneys out there, but this one in particular says they can help negotiate for more than just fair amount. Later in life, if you have difficulty paying alimony because of a life event, they can discuss with you options of modification. And having to pay alimony can seem like a crushing weight, but there is help. And so they have a number that they have here. So I'm just putting this out there. This is Emily Russell. She has a reputation among her colleagues and a willingness to successfully take on most of these difficult divorce and custody cases. And so there's several people that people employ to help them through these situations. So when I saw this, I said, this can't be so. Here it is. I love the singer Mary J. Blige, but for somebody to do something like this when she was struggling, I was hearing about she almost was next to nothing, and she made it, worked hard to get to the top, and here she gets involved with this person who, from what I heard, he was cheating on her, and he was doing all this stuff, and now he wants to get alimony payments. So yeah, that is kind of frustrating. It's just it makes you mad, but that's the way I'm feeling. It's like, come on now, you're not, come on now, you're not even like a baby, but this is the kind of stuff that happens. I mean, these are the parts of the relationships that people don't want to talk about, and you might want to think about that. And so anyway, having said that, I had saw this, I was like, no blank way. So having said that, FYI, you might want to rethink what you get yourself into. You might want to rethink about that. Rethink about it. Is it really something I want to pursue? Is this going to work? How is this going to turn out for me? And the whole thing, because if you don't really do your homework on these things and you get involved, and that's with any relationship. So this is not just for the regular, heterosexual relationships. It can happen in those other relationships, the LGBTQ relationships, because a lot of people got married. So, I think marriage takes a lot of work. And it is not a game, because it is life-changing. So you have to be willing to go through the good, the bad, and this right here, I would say this is the ugly part. I'm one of those people, I want to know everything. I want to know what's going on. I want to know what I'm getting I want to know if the pool has water in it before I jump in it. That's the way I am. What do you think? You feel me?